For decades, the Iran-Israel conflict was a shadow war, spies, sabotage, and cyber attacks, rarely making headlines. Mysterious explosions at Iranian nuclear sites, assassinations in Tehran, and crippling cyber attacks were all part of this silent feud. Israel saw Iran's nuclear ambitions as an existential threat, responding with covert operations to delay and disrupt. Iran, unable to match Israel's military, built a network of proxies. Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis arming them to encircle Israel. These groups launched attacks, giving Iran plausible deniability and keeping the region in constant tension. By early 2025, the shadow war was unraveling. Iranian cyber attacks hit Israel's water and power grids, causing chaos. Israel retaliated with a deadly strike in Syria, killing a top IRGC commander. The tit-for-tat escalated rapidly, breaking the unwritten rules that had kept the conflict contained. The covert war was becoming open, and millions braced for what was coming. The ghost story was about to become a terrifying reality. The region stood on the edge, as the silent war prepared to erupt into open conflict. The world watched, knowing the stakes had never been higher. The era of deniable warfare was over. On June 12, 2025, the fragile peace shattered. Iran launched a massive barrage of missiles and drones directly from its own soil at northern Israel, a clear declaration of war. Air raid sirens blared as Israel's Iron Dome and David Sling intercepted most threats, but some missiles broke through, striking key military sites. Iran's strategy overwhelmed defenses with waves of drones, then follow with advanced hypersonic missiles. Israel's response was immediate and fierce. F-35S struck deep inside Iran, targeting IRGC command centers and missile sites. The skies over the Middle East became a deadly battleground of technology and firepower. No ground troops crossed borders, but the devastation was immense. For civilians, life became a cycle of sirens and explosions. The shadow war had ended. A high-tech open conflict had begun. The world watched as the region plunged into chaos. The rules had changed, and the stakes were higher than ever. The first 48 hours redefined warfare in the Middle East. The real war had begun. The conflict quickly spread beyond Iran and Israel. Iran activated its proxies. Hezbollah unleashed rockets from Lebanon, forcing Israelis into shelters and opening a second front. In the Red Sea, Houthi rebels targeted shipping, militarizing vital trade routes. Iran's navy harassed oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, sending oil prices soaring and drawing in US and allied navies. The war raged at sea, threatening global energy supplies. In cyberspace, Iranian hackers attacked Israeli infrastructure and media, while Israel retaliated by crippling Iran's oil and power grids. The conflict became a hybrid war: missiles, guerrilla tactics, economic warfare, and digital sabotage. Israel faced attacks from all directions, unable to achieve a decisive victory. Every strike in Iran brought retaliation from proxies in Lebanon, Yemen, and Iraq. The battlefield was everywhere: land, sea, air, and cyberspace. The war's complexity made it impossible to contain. Civilians across the region suffered as the conflict spiraled. The pain spread far beyond the two main combatants. Beyond the front lines, ordinary lives were shattered. In Israel, daily life was upended, schools closed, streets emptied, and every siren sent people scrambling for shelter. The psychological toll was immense. Fear became a constant companion. In Iran, Israeli strikes and cyber attacks caused blackouts, economic collapse, and soaring inflation. Protests simmered but were swiftly crushed by authorities. In Lebanon, fighting displaced hundreds of thousands, creating a new refugee crisis. Gaza's blockade deepened its humanitarian crisis. Aid organizations struggled to reach those in need. The war was a catastrophe for civilians, who paid the highest price. Fear and anxiety gripped both nations, forging unity but also deepening uncertainty. Rumors and propaganda stoked fears for holy sites and cultural heritage. The conflict attacked not just bodies and buildings but the very identity of millions. The region's sense of security was shattered. The world's response was chaotic and divided. The US rushed military aid to Israel but tried to avoid direct war with Iran, focusing on de-escalation. Russia and China called for a ceasefire, blocked US-led UN resolutions, and quietly supported their own interests. China, worried about oil supplies, pressured Tehran. Russia saw an opportunity to challenge US influence. The UN became a stage for speeches, not solutions. Deadlock reigned. Regional powers like Turkey and India offered to mediate, but lacked leverage. The Vatican called for protection of holy sites, but the fighting raged on. Iran and Israel were locked in existential struggle, deaf to outside voices. The world could only watch, worry, and choose sides. Humanitarian aid trickled in, but peace remained elusive. The war exposed the limits of global diplomacy. The conflict raged on, unchecked by international efforts. 3 weeks in, the war reached its most dangerous moment. An Israeli airstrike near Isfahan damaged a facility close to a civilian nuclear site. Iran accused Israel of risking a nuclear disaster. Panic spread worldwide. The threat of nuclear catastrophe jolted world leaders into action. China threatened to cut Iranian oil purchases. The US warned Israel against further escalation. Secret negotiations began in Oman, driven by fear of mutual destruction. Talks were tense, no trust, only survival. Iran demanded sanctions relief and security guarantees. Israel insisted on dismantling missile sites and pulling back proxies. Initial proposals failed, but dialogue had begun. The nuclear scare broke the diplomatic deadlock. For the first time, both sides faced the true cost of war. After grueling talks, a ceasefire was announced, not peace, just a pause. Iran agreed to halt uranium enrichment and dismantle key missile bases. In return, sanctions eased and oil sales resumed. The proxy issue remained unresolved. Hezbollah pulled back, but its arsenal stayed. Houthi attacks slowed but didn't stop. The core conflict was untouched. The region's wounds ran deep. The war changed everything. Hypersonic missiles, drone swarms, and cyber attacks redefined modern conflict. Nations learned that devastation could come without a single soldier crossing a border. Paranoia replaced trust. A new Middle East Cold War began. Both sides rearmed, preparing for the next round. The Shadow War resumed, now with higher stakes. The world narrowly avoided disaster, but peace was fragile. The fire still smoldered, waiting for the next spark. The story was far from over.